users, which are essential to all. Excellencies, partners, ladies and gentlemen, to achieve this, we need interdisciplinary collaboration between meteorological and hydrological services, governmental departments, research institutions, and private stakeholders. Let us remain steadfast in our commitment to harnessing the power of meteorology and hydrology for the betterment of our societies. Let us seize this opportunity to shape policies, forge partnerships, and lay the groundwork for a future where weather, water, and climate serve as catalytic forces for socio-economic development in Africa. Please support the implementation and resource mobilization plan of the Integrated African Strategy on Meteorology. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Professor Celeste, for this statement. Let me now call Her Excellency Josefa Sacco, Commissioner of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of the African Union Commission. Excellency.
Thank you, MC, for giving me the floor. Good morning, every one of you. Let me recognize acknowledge the presence of Honorable Mike Elton Mposha, Minister of Green Economy and Environment of the Republic of Zambia, and AMCOMET's first Vice President. I would also like to recognize the presence of Honorable Ursula Gifty Owusu, Minister for Communication and Digitalization of the Republic of Ghana. I would like to recognize Professor Celeste Saulo, Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, Honorable Ministers in Presencia, distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. It is an honor and privilege to join you today for the official opening of the launch of the implementation plan of the Integrated African Strategy on Meteorology, Weather and Climate Services at the African Pavilion here in Baku. I extend warm greetings from His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, and I welcome you all in this important launch. I am particularly excited about launching the implementation and resource mobilization plan of the meteorology strategy, which is a strategic roadmap for critical action on the development and application of meteorology for Africa's social, economic, and ecological development. The strategy further reflects the clean commitment of our highest political leadership to strengthen early warning system and climate information services, as well as to take early action to protect lives, livelihoods, and assets, and inform long-term decision-making related to climate change risk. The implementation of the strategy demonstrates the commitment of African political leaders to the regional and global development frameworks, such as the Sustainable Development Goal, the SDGs, the Paris Agreement on climate change, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Global Framework for Climate Services, among others. The implementation plan helps to articulate practical action to respond to the African Union Agenda 2063, while setting a trajectory for Africa to respond and align seamlessly with regional and global development frameworks, such as the Sustainable Development Goal, the Paris Agreement on climate change, the Sendai, I think I am encouraged to note that the implementation plan also provides a clear roadmap for translating the integrated African strategy on meteorology strategic pillar into action and transforming the development and application of tailored weather, water, and climate services for social, economic, and ecological development. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African Union is committed to supporting member states, regional economic community, and various stakeholders in minimizing the continent's potential to contribute meaningfully to climate change mitigation and adaptation endeavors. As we gather here today, I am heartened to see a diverse range of stakeholders, all united in their aim to support our national meteorological and hydrological services. We must continue our efforts to enhance capacity for the production and delivery of a tailored weather, water, climate, and early warning services through initiatives that implement the meteorology strategy, such as climate service, ClimSav program. In this regard, and as the African Union Commission appreciates the support of the European Union towards our member states' capacity enhancing through the ClimSat program, I would like to appeal for the support of all other partners towards effective implementation of the implementation plan we are launching today. That is particularly so as the integrated African strategy on meteorology, weather and climate services, among others, call upon us to invest in weather, water, climate, and early warning services is essential for sustainable development. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may be aware that the 2026 States of Climate in Africa report, I think Professor has already mentioned it in our own statement, so I will just go as a consequence of all these data that was presented. This will be additional burden on poverty alleviation effort and significant hamper growth, while the adoption of the integrated African strategy on meteorology, weather and climate services by the African Union, head of state and government, provides strategic guidance and coordinated action on meteorology, climate action, and resilience building. We need to implement it effectively, hence the implementation plan, because we formulate and we craft all these strategy, but the implementation is really a core. And today we are no longer here to come and narrate what we know already. We are here to mobilize resources with our partners, with our private sector, so that we start implementing this important tool. I am at the end of my mandate, and I know that during 8 years, we built a lot of tools at the African Union. But the problem now, it is action. We need to pass from just consultants to go to concrete actions that is being identified in this strategy. So as we launch this plan today, I would like to encourage all of you to build on it through various implementation efforts. There is an urgent need for us to adapt to minimize massive losses and prevent the reversal of developmental gain achieved so far. Finally, I wish to commend the effort of AMCOMET Secretariat and the World Meteorological Organization for the support towards elaboration of the plan we are launching today. I thank you very much for your kind attention. Merci beaucoup pour votre attention. Muito obrigada, muitas gracias.
Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for this statement. Let me now give the floor to Honorable Mr. Mike Elton Mposha, Minister of Green Economy and Environment of Zambia, and AMCOMET First Vice President. Please.
Thank you, Director of Ceremony, for giving me the floor. Allow me to start by recognizing and appreciating the officials who spoke before me, Her Excellency Ambassador Josepha Sako, Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, African Union, the World Meteorological Organization Secretary General, Professor Celeste Saulo. May I also recognize the presence of Honorable Usula Ousu Ekufu, my colleague, Minister of Communications and Digitalization of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable ministers from AMCONET here present, may I simply say, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and privilege to welcome you all to this very important event, the launch of the implementation plan of the Integrated African Strategy on Meteorology. Allow me to extend my sincere gratitude to the African Union Commission for hosting us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa, a continent blessed with immense natural resources and vibrant cultures, is increasingly grappling with the devastating impacts of climate change, the relentlessness onslaught of extreme weather events, from the severe drought that ravaged Southern Africa in 2023-2024 to the catastrophic floods that indotted East Africa, underscores the urgent need for climate action. These climate-induced disasters have had a profound impact on our societies, economies, and ecosystems. They have displaced millions, destroyed livelihoods, and worsened food insecurity and poverty. As we gather here today, it is imperative that we acknowledge the scale of this crisis and commit to bold and decisive actions. To adapt to extreme weather events, we must invest in robust early warning systems, strengthen our meteorological and hydrological services, and promote climate-resilient infrastructure. By doing so, we can protect lives, safeguard livelihoods, and build a more resilient Africa. The Integrated African Strategy on Meteorology provides a roadmap for addressing these challenges and harnessing the power of weather, water, and climate information to drive sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, the African Ministerial Conference on Meteorology, AMCONET, stands at the forefront of climate science and policy in Africa, focusing on strategies to mitigate climate change impacts and reinforcing national mechanisms to deliver early warning information. However, this vital mission requires a unified vision, collaborative efforts across all levels, strong partnerships among stakeholders, and a clear recognition of the crucial role that national meteorological and hydrological services play in data collection and in providing essential services for the continent's adaptation efforts. Let us remember the proverb, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. I therefore call on cooperating and development partners, the private sector, and all stakeholders to join me and fellow AMCONET ministers in our efforts to build capacity through improved infrastructure, human resources, innovation, and technological development to modernize meteorological and hydrological services, enhance data collection, and deliver tailored information to all citizens. Together, we must seize the opportunities presented by weather, water, and climate services as catalysts for socio-economic development across Africa. As I conclude, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the African Union Commission for its strong leadership and to the World Meteorological Organization for its invaluable technical support provided to national meteorological and hydrological services. Let me also extend my appreciation to my esteemed colleague and second vice chair of AMCONET, Mrs. Ursula Owusu Ekufu, Minister of Communications and Digitalization for Ghana, for her gracious offer to host this event earlier at the Ghana Pavilion. We are very grateful for that offer, Honorable Minister. Finally, I want to thank all our development partners for their unwavering dedication and collective efforts in addressing the shared challenge of hydrological hazards that hinder sustainable development across our beautiful continent. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor and privilege to declare this event open. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for these welcoming remarks. Now, let us welcome Mrs. Marianne Diop Kane from AMCOMET Secretariat to give brief presentation of the implementation plan of the Integrated Africa Strategy of Meteorology.
Good morning, ladies, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure and honor to give you a brief overview of the implementation plan of the revised integrated strategy on meteorology. Let me first give you a brief background on AMCOMET. AMCOMET has been created in 2010 because of all the challenges the National Met Services were facing. And it aimed to really give the political support and mobilize resources to National Met Services to deliver on their mission, that is to provide weather, water, and climate services, and of course, early warning to their population. So this being created, a strategy has been developed with 5 strategic pillars spanning all across the value chain of climate services, from observation, data collection, processing, archiving, and also producing the forecast and early warning that we all need. Following that, AMCOMET 5 that took place during the COVID requested the development of the plan, implementation plan. So we want to develop this plan to facilitate its implementation. And the plan is composed of 3 key implementation areas. The first one to do with the institutional strengthening of National Met Services, policies to give them legal framework to operate, partner with all stakeholders, partner with the private sector, get clear cost recovery mechanism, and also implement the women, the gender and youth strategy in line with AUC and WMO strategy and action plan. The second one is to do with resource mobilization. This is key. And we have their activities and a big advocacy for governments to increase the budget of national med services. It is a proposal to have it just about 0.02% of the GDP. If this is feasible, if you see, as stated in the climate report in Africa, that many countries are losing about 2 to 5% of their GDP. So increasing by this little of the budget of their national med services is really feasible, and it can save a lot. So this is really a plea and a call to do that. It's true that we have other competing priorities, especially in Africa. But it needs to be considered that getting climate information and early warning services is a must for all population. In the same way, everybody needs to have access to health, education, and so on. You have to have access to information on meteorology to deal with your activities, especially at community levels. So this key implementation area is about mobilizing resources. Another point is a call on all development partners or funders to really ease access to climate finance to support national med services. I think it is high time to be starting investing upfront, upstream for adaptation. You cannot do any adaptation plan or resilience plan if you don't have the right information. You need climate scientifically based information to develop plan on adaptation and resilience. And this is not a lot. The last key implementation plan is on operations of national med services to be aligned with the strategy of WMO. It's where we are having activities and calling on partners to support observation network to be compliant with WMO procedures. Have GBON and SOF is already supporting. Need to have national med services be able to deliver weather, water and climate services and early warning. Also implement the QMS, quality management system. We need them also to get the ban on the mercury, modernize their weather station. This is the last implementation plan. And all activities that were defined as priorities as a region, as Africa, need support to national med services to do so. The implementation plan has also a framework for monitoring. The ministers will be monitoring how the national med services are progressing. And it's even better that at the last STC, the Specialized Technical Committee of AUC on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, it has been requested for AUC to be submitting a biennial report on how national med services are progressing in implementing the implementation plan. So this is a good way to monitor and evaluate. For mobilization plan is also proposed and is calling on the funders, all these banks, GCF, Adaptation Fund, to really ease access to the climate finance to national med services. A lot been invested, so we are requesting for national med services to have also access to those funds that are dedicated to national level. So that is more or less what is in the plan. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Marianne, for this presentation. Now, let us launch the plan, and for this, I'm inviting Honorable Minister Mike Elton Mposa to take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Ceremony, once again for giving me the floor. We have all heard the statements, the appeals. We have one more appeal to make, and the appeal is that let us work together to build a climate-resilient Africa where our communities can thrive and prosper despite the challenges posed by changing climate. So let us work together. And as I appeal to you, allow me now to call upon the entire high table, the Honorable Minister, Her Excellency, to join me as we launch the strategic plan. I think we go in the middle, except we will not have the microphone.
Thank you very much. I would like to continue with some ministers' statements and recs. And for this, let me call upon Honorable Mrs. Ursula Owusu Ekuful, Minister of Communications and Digitization of Ghana. Please, Excellency.
The AUC Commissioner, Her Excellency Josepha Sako, First Vice Chair of AMCOMET, Minister Mike Elton Mposa, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to represent Ghana at this event on the implementation and resource mobilization for national meteorological and hydrological services. And I bring you warm greetings from His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We all know that Africa faces significant challenges from climate change, with frequent and intense extreme weather events impacting our economies and societies. The 2023 State of Climate in Africa report has already been spoken about, and it highlights the urgent need for action due to the cost to our GDPs annually due to climate-related disasters. These well-known statistics of the impact of hydrometeorological hazards on various sectors of our economies, such as agriculture, energy, health, water, and disaster management, calls for urgent action. And it is therefore imperative for all stakeholders to collaborate with the national meteorological and hydrological services, especially in Africa, to complement their critical role for disaster risk reduction, food security, transport, water, etc. Excellencies, as the second Vice President of the African Ministerial Conference on Meteorology, AMCOMET, I'm committed to advancing implementation and resource mobilization for national meteorological and hydrological services to strengthen early warning systems across Africa. This aligns with the integrated strategy on meteorology's goal of fortifying early warning systems for weather, water, and climate-related hazards in Africa. The Ghanaian government has prioritized meteorological and hydrological services, and we have taken some concrete steps to give effect to this commitment. Kindly permit me to highlight some initiatives that we have taken in Ghana to mobilize resources in strengthening our NMHSs for early warning systems. The current government has supported the Ghana Meteorological Agency to recruit 250 staff, with 30% of them being females, and has procured 26 automatic weather stations, calibration equipment, message switching systems, and 15 vehicles to enhance the efficiency of the operations of Ghana Meteorological Agency in the delivery of weather and climate services in Ghana. We've also championed the enactment of the Ghana Hydrological Authority Act in 2022 to re-engineer the Hydrological Services Department to an autonomous authority empowered to take the necessary steps to protect lives and livelihoods. The authority is currently working closely with GMET and other state actors, such as the Water Resources Commission and the National Disaster Management Organization, to develop and implement the Flood Early Warning System for the Greater Accra region of Ghana under the World Bank-funded Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project. We've also amended the Ghana Meteorological Agency Act in 2019 to provide specific percentages of funding from the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority and the Ghana Airports Company Limited receivables to provide a secure source of funding to GMET. Furthermore, our commitment for digital transformation of productive strategic sectors focuses not only on digital entrepreneurship and agriculture, but also on strengthening key sectors such as GMET for climate service delivery, which is underscored by initiatives such as the Ghana Digital Acceleration Project, which is providing equipment worth $5.5 million to GMET this year. 105 various types of automatic weather stations, 75 desktops and laptops, 120 tablets, workstations and vehicles have already been procured under this project to improve overall responsiveness to our country's environmental challenges and provide reliable data and forecasts for both everyday use and emergency response. Another project, the Food System and Resilient Project, led by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, also sponsored by the World Bank, has provided 20 synoptic automatic weather stations to GMET to support data collection for improved climate services delivery in Ghana.
You have arrived.
The Volta Alarm Early Warning System, developed by the Volta Flood and Drought Management Project, is a crucial tool currently used by the Ghana Meteorological Agency, the Disaster Management Organization, the Hydrological Authority, and the Water Resources Commission for real-time monitoring and dissemination of flood and drought bulletins and warnings to stakeholders and the public. Additionally, WMO has supported GMET to implement the Common Alerting Protocol and the Content Management System. The CAP is a global standard tool for early warning systems that facilitates the dissemination of warning alerts through various media channels. I encourage all countries to leverage on this tool to support the implementation of early warning systems and dissemination of weather and climate services. I'm pleased to inform you that Ghana has successfully launched the Early Warning for All and consultative workshop following our discussions at COP28 with UNDRR and WMO on the need to implement Early Warning for All in Ghana. According to the Early Warning for All roadmap template, it would have required 6 months to complete the roadmap for Ghana. However, at the launch of our Early Warning for All on 29th October this year, I gave the team 2 weeks to complete the development of the roadmap. And as I speak, the draft is ready for finalization. We are glad we're responding to the UN Secretary General's call to build a resilient country. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I encourage all my colleague ministers, policymakers, governments, and all stakeholders to support mobilization, strengthen capacity of the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services, and prioritize early warning systems for weather, water, and climate-related hazards in Africa to build a resilient continent. Let's work together to ensure that every African is protected by early warning systems, and together we can build a safer and more sustainable future for all of us on this beautiful continent. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for this statement. Let me now call Mr. Malan Dabo, Permanent Secretary of the Gambia Ministry of Fisheries. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, let me extend greetings of the Honorable Minister of Fisheries, Water Resources and National Assembly Matters, who is unable to participate. And has directed me to deliver this statement on his behalf. Very, very short statement. And this statement reads, the Gambia has long recognized the essential role that weather and climate data plays in safeguarding the nation's infrastructure, agricultural productivity, and water resources. The endorsement of the launching of the implementation plan and resource mobilization of the Integrated Africa Strategy on Meteorology is a natural extension of the Gambia's commitment to enhancing these areas through improved meteorological services. The commitment stems from a recognition that accurate and accessible weather information is key to effective climate adaptation and sustainable development. The Gambia is actively implementing initiatives to firstly strengthen national meteorological capacities, support community resilience, promote interagency collaboration. That is, the Gambia's Department of Water Resources actively collaborate with other government departments, agricultural agencies, and disaster management and authorities to ensure that weather and climate data are utilized across sectors for maximum impact. This collaboration strengthens the Gambia's national adaptation strategy and support cross-sector resilience building. Aligned with the regional initiative, the Gambia is committed to regional alignment on climate action by adopting the Integrated Africa Strategy on Meteorology. The Gambia reaffirms its dedication to ECOWAS and African Union initiatives, working in concert with other African nations to build shared capacity and resilience through sharing best practices. The Gambia also seeks international collaboration and support. The Gambia advocates for global collaboration and resource mobilization to enhance methodological capacities across Africa. This includes calling for technology transfer, investment in infrastructure, and capacity building initiatives that will empower African nations to address climate risks. In conclusion, by aligning with the Integrated Africa Strategy on Meteorology, the Gambia underscores its commitment to a future where enhanced weather data fortifies our economy, protects our ecosystems, and builds a safer, more resilient society. We pledge to continue supporting this initiative and collaborating with partners to advance Africa's meteorological capacities for sustainable climate resilient growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this statement. Let me now call the Secretary General of Ministry of Transport, Civil Aviation and Meteorology of Chad, Mr. Dihulne Laurent.
Good morning. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres,
Excellencies, Ministers, Commissioner for Agriculture and Sustainable Development for the African Union, Secretary General of the Meteorological Organization, dear guests, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and I am delighted to talk to you, distinguished actors for this very important event for meteorology in Africa. And please let me, in the name of Fatima Gouwende, the Minister in charge of Civil Aviation and Meteorology of Chad, let me thank the Ambassador José Fasango, who's Commissioner for the Agriculture and Blue Economy and Sustainable Development of Africa. I would like to thank them for inviting Chad to take part into this event dedicated to the launch plan of implementation of African meteorology. Please let me reaffirm that we adhere to this strategy and we support the COMET, which is our common organism to favor meteorology and its application in our region. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the climate is changing quickly and our environment is becoming more and more unpredictable, so the role of hydrology and meteorology services is very important, which is now visible for the economy and other sectors. And this importance of our sector was reaffirmed by the African strategy, which is for Chad a very important strategic document. And I would like to appreciate the value of the launch of the strategic plan. I'm calling for a renewed commitment of the international community to support African initiative with this plan. The budget for hydrology and meteorology, the budget is a very important matter that we do worry about, because we know that investing in such services is indispensable for sustainable development. So we would like to have direct access financing for meteorology and hydrology, and my country will support any initiative that would make the plan more operational in their continental strategy. The mobilization of resources, we are sure, will be a good answer to the daily worries of meteorology and hydrology services in Africa in general and in Chad in particular. As you know, Chad is more than ever facing the impact of climate change. So 2024 was a tragically hot a hot year with over 45 degrees on some days, and some floods also that impacted 119 most of our departments and affected more than 9 million population, and causing about 600 fatalities. So these tragedies have compromised our economy, which is based on cattle and on agriculture in general. So there were efforts that were made by the government and by the partners, the development partners, in order to improve timely information about the climate, in order to allow communities and populations to act in time. Now, the Service of Meteorology was made into a public service with its own financial autonomy and with its own administration council. So there was a law that was pronounced to allow better mobilization of resources for the meteorology prediction and hydrology prediction. And now, despite the goodwill of the government, the national we have problems financing the meteorology services to respond to the needs of our country. But we need to appreciate the support of our partners for meteorology. Systematic observing, for example, which is a pillar project to tackle floods. The CRIOS project, so in order to create an early warning system, and Alerte Précoce pour Tous, which is another partner, and they all finance the project. And here the Chad government are grateful for the support. But I would like to repeat that we need to adapt as soon as possible, and as the ministers have said, technology such as AI and satellite observation systems can help us respond to meteorology challenges. So technology is essential in order to make our services more efficient and more precise. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank WMO for reinforcing the Chadian meteorology services, and I would like to thank the African Union for its leadership in the matter. It is crucial to insist on the fact that international collaboration is very important for meteorologic activities. It is crucial to reinforce our capacities, and the synergy is very important to respond to the challenges of climate change. And I would like to insist on my country's involvement to work together with all countries for a resilient future against climate change. We do hope that the implementation of the integrated strategy will be financed. I would like to thank you for your attention and for your support. Thank you.
Merci pour cette ces
Thank
paroles
you
du
for your intervention. From
Transport,
the
Lac de Saint-Civil,
Ministry of
Météorologie du
Transport,
Tchad.
and thank you to the services meteorology and aviation in Chad.
Speaker in this session, Mr. Mikko Ollikainen, Head of Adaptation Fund. Please.
Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be a part of this very important event, and I congratulate AMCOMET and the participating countries and organizations for the launch of the implementation and resource mobilization plan of the African Integrated Strategy on Meteorology. The Adaptation Fund is committed to easing direct access to its resources. As you may know, the Adaptation Fund pioneered the direct access modality, which empowers national entities to access climate finance and manage all aspects of adaptation projects, from design to implementation to monitoring. This ensures that adaptation efforts are not only relevant but also deeply rooted in national priorities and knowledge and systems. And this would help countries to access more climate adaptation funding also from other sources. To date, the Adaptation Fund has accredited 34 national implementing entities and actively assisting a pipeline applicant NIEs to get direct access to climate adaptation finance. Out of these 34 national implementing entities, 10 are from least developed countries, 7 are from small island developing states, and 12 currently are from the Africa region. Over 20% of our portfolio of concrete projects are dedicated to disaster risk reduction and early warning systems. The number of early warning systems is one of the core indicators of the fund. To date, the fund's projects have installed close to 600 early warning systems in different parts of the world, of which 360 are in Africa. Both small-scale early warning systems at the local level and large national and even regional systems. In closing, I would like to remind that the Adaptation Fund is supporting the United Nations goal to have early warning systems for everyone on the planet by 2027. WMO is one of our multilateral implementing partners, which can of course channel funding to and work with national hydromet agencies, but we are also open to continue our work in expanding our network of national hydromet agencies as implementing entities and as executing partners. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, for this opening session that is closed now. I will pass now the over to Dr. Eric Asuman, Permanent Representative of Ghana with WMO, to take over and to be the chair of the upcoming session. Thank you.
Please, my ADV friend.
Yes, and what order the speakers?
You just said, I think I understand the time is fast spent, so we may not, even all the speakers will not get to this. So that's okay. Hello, please, we have a very limited time to consider the question and answer session, and we will have to be very brief. And since we have very limited time, about 15 minutes, if you can handle your response in a minute or two, we will be grateful. So quickly, let me pose my first question to GCF. Current procedures for assessing climate financing do not provide direct access for national meteorological and hydrological services. If the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services need any support, they have to go through a very robust process and they can access funds directly. What steps should be taken to enable National Meteorological and Hydrological Services to access climate funds directly and strengthen their capacity to deliver tailored service and early warning system essential for climate adaptation? GCF, you can take that question. Do you have GCF here? Okay. Then I can see FDA, African Development Bank here, right. So hydrometeorological investments are crucial for Africa, as has been, spoke about in all the presentation that has taken place already. However, National Meteorological and Hydrological Services are poor. They don't have the necessary resources to deliver on their mandates. So what step should be taken to enable National Meteorological and Hydrological Services, benefit from funding from FDB, African Development Bank, and other World Bank and funding institutions? If African Development Bank can take this question. I think we need to, yes. And please be brief.
Thank you very much. Let me be brief. Let me first of all say that we're very pleased from the African Development Bank to be part of this dialogue. And we congratulate the African Ministerial Council on Meteorology for the launch on the strategic plan for driving investments in hydrometeorological services in Africa. Let me say that as the bank, we will contribute to two strategic pillars. There is the pillar on the improved observational networks, data access and processing, and also the pillar on enhanced capacities for production and delivery of climate services. So we're very interested to work with AMCOMET in delivering its mandate on those two pillars. From the side of the multilateral development banks, let me say we have also committed to work with partners to make sure that we enhance the investments in hydrometeorological services. Under the Hydromet Alliance, we have about 12 or 13 partners who are coming together to make sure that our investments in hydrometeorological services are coordinated. Under the Hydromet Alliance, we have of course formed the Systematic Observations Financing Facility that Professor Celeste talked about, that is already providing $62 million to 23 African countries. From our side, we have provided almost $74 million in technical assistance to an additional 25 countries in Africa to enhance their meteorological observations. We have also provided additional resources to help those countries recover from the negative impacts of extreme weather events. But I should say that at the moment we are closing ranks. We are coming together under the United Nations Secretary General's Early Warning for All initiative to make sure that we can all contribute to the development of risk knowledge, to enhancing observations capacity and focus for African countries, to also make sure that we have enhanced delivery and dissemination, and also we support response and recovery mechanisms. Let me say that for our part, we have just launched the Africa Climate Action Window that is now going to support 23 projects across 23 African countries with almost $160 million over the next 3 or 4 years. And we are looking to other MDBs and other partners to also join hands in enhancing these investments to African countries. Let me stop there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, African Development Bank. I think my next question quickly will go to UNDP. Is UNDP here? It's not. UNDP is not here. Okay, so do we have UNFCCC? Okay. So you play a very critical role in promoting adaptation to climate change. My question is, what are the main barriers to implementing and possible solution to effective early warning system across Africa? You have a minute or two, maximum 2.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all protocol duly respected. This is a very important question, and to respond to it in a minute or two is, well, maybe I just jump through the points. The first thing is having in place infrastructure, and I won't be able to elaborate on that. But we also see that there is a critical need. One of the barriers that we're also coming across is also the issues of data and having the technical capacity that is required to be able to understand these things. Let me just zoom into this one. The fact that you have early warning systems, people need to understand them. So you have an early warning system, but I always like to add at the end of the early warning, interpretation. Because if the message is there, if you hear an alarm go off and you don't know what it means, the local people will still be as confused. They will not know what that means, right? And then the number 3 element that I wanted to touch on is the funding constraints. We also would see that even in the global stocktake outcome that was adopted in Dubai, there was emphasis that international community and the financial mechanisms of the UNFCCC, which is GCF and the GEF, should make available funding for the implementation of national early warning systems. Of course, I'll stop there and happy to take other questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Let me quickly go to UNECA. You have been publishing state of climate reports in Africa. And my question is, what are the implications of these findings for sustainable development in Africa? And if you can add, in terms of socioeconomic impact, how can we increase the budget of National Meteorological and Hydrological Services in the context of competing priorities? In 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. And in the interest of time, all protocols observed. Firstly, we have heard already from the previous session the costs of climate events on the continent. 2 to 5% of our GDP, and sometimes up to 9% of national budgets in unplanned expenditures on responses to climate and extreme weather events. And recall, these impacts are happening at only 1.1 degrees warming. And the projections are that, firstly, Africa is warming faster than the global average, and that these impacts are going to accelerate in the next few years. So it becomes more challenging for the continent to build resilient economies, especially given the challenges of mobilizing resources, adequate, predictable climate finance. And this is compounded by the debt burden that is facing the continent. And so more and more funds are being diverted away from social services. And in this regard, in fact, investments in hydromet services are the lowest priority for our continent. So given the limited fiscal space available, We think that, firstly, development partners such as AFDB, the climate funds, philanthropy, and so on, should support NMHSs with resources to invest in adequate observation and early warning infrastructure. But secondly, also, private investment should be encouraged. And in this regard, AMCOMET should finalize and implement protocols to guide private sector participation in generating, analyzing, and disseminating hydromet data and information. My institution, the Economic Commission for Africa, is also actively involved in current initiatives aimed at reforming the global financial system and architecture through the Sustainable Debt Initiative, which is aimed at unlocking further resources for investment in social services, including hydromet services. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Quickly, let me move to IOC. IOC. So my question still stands. What can you do, or what strategy can be put in place to ensure that national meteorological and hydrological services have access to funding to build their capacity to enable them provide weather, water, and climate services to support our economies and ensure that we save lives and properties?
Thank you very much. First of all, probably some of you don't know me. See, like a small boy. See, who's that small boy? I've been working for 33 years with the Seychelles Meteorological Authority, and I'm pleased to represent the Indian Ocean Commission and my minister responsible for meteorology. How can I answer this question? I prepare something very long, and then to cut me now in between, it's like very challenging. But I will try to find the pieces that I can talk in 2 minutes. What I see, which is very interesting, especially for the Indian Ocean, is that actually we are implementing a very big project called the Hydromet project in the Southwest Indian Ocean. But at the same time, we are seeing that there are many other initiatives coming up. And if we don't be careful to know how to coordinate these projects, we will fail as we go along. So I think as we try to tap into investment, it's very important that we know how to coordinate all these investments, all these initiatives that are out there, so that we get the best out of it. This is one. So coordination, collaboration with partners is another thing. We have a lot of institutions out there that wanted to put investing in national med services, but if they don't talk to one another, again, it won't work. Today we are seeing the National Med Service, we are seeing the UNDRR, we are seeing many other institutions that are coming up with initiative. But if they don't collaborate with one another, again, even if funds are there, it will be very difficult for us to access them. So it's very important to stress on how can we bring institutions together, agreeing so that at the national level, when we are implementing projects, they are the right project, we are implementing the right thing. So that we make sure that the funds, that investment that are out there, we are making the most of it. So I believe I can stop there for the time being. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for rushing you. Lastly, let me call still GCF, Ms. Oyong. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name well, but that question is important to me. Current procedure for assessing climate finance do not provide direct access for national meteorological and hydrological services. What step should be taken to enable national meteorological and hydrological services to assess climate funds? I hope you'll be able to do this in 2 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. So, direct access modality. So we do have at the Green Climate Fund what's called direct access. Currently out of 130 accredited entities with GCF, almost 90 are direct access or regional access entities. So on one side, the national institutions can become accredited because it takes time, but we're speeding it up. at the same time, there is a new approach. Even if you are not accredited, you can either use direct access entities in your country if it's appropriate, or there is something called project-specific accreditation. And project-specific accreditation is entities can bring one-off project proposals or programs and can get accredited at the same time. There will be, of course, due diligence both on the project but also on the accreditation. So that's 1+1 modality. Now, GCF also provides capacity building. You may know it's help national institutions build the necessary capacity, but also do the project preparation facility for direct access entities. There's something called Readiness, which provides support to direct access entities, including hydromet agencies, to strengthen their internal systems and enhance their ability to deliver climate services. Again, the focal ministries for GCF, they have to be also coordinated, and they have to be owning and supporting the proposals that are coming towards GCF. And I would like you to also just mention that in the next 4 years programming period, strategic programming, early warning systems are our priority, central focus. In the pipeline, we already have 97 projects with climate information early warning systems component, collectively valued at 1.4 billion, in covering more than 95 countries. And only in 2024, this year, we have already 15 climate information warning system projects with components of early warning priorities, with total financing of 3.8 billion, and GCF's financing is about 0.9 billion, and the rest is co-financing. But overall, in our portfolio, we have about $3.6 billion worth of GCF contributions, with additional 6 billion secured for 95 projects for early warning systems, and regionally, for Africa, it's 38%. So there are different modalities. You have to coordinate, of course, with the focal ministries, with accredited entities, or bring one-off project as part of the project-specific accreditation approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all the panelists. Sorry for rushing you and not giving you enough time. I'm really sorry. I've been given a minute, and I need to call First Vice President to come and close the session. Sorry, and thank you very much. Unfortunately, we already ran out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Ceremony. This event, let us now go and implement the plan, but just also to emphasize the fact that we need the resources to ensure that we build capacity in terms of working tools, in terms of data collection, so that the meteorological and hydrological services can be enhanced. We should be able to collect data. We have to support the directive by the Secretary General of the United Nations, who has underscored the importance of early warning systems, that each citizen must be entitled to this information to be warned early enough. But for the nations to do that, for the African continent to do that, we need resources to ensure that the meteorological services are enhanced. With that said, we have the duty now to go and mobilize the resources with the plan that we've just launched. We also want to appeal to our cooperating partners, to the multilateral institutions, to ensure that we should look at meteorology and hydrology services to be key in your financing, so that we can save lives, we can save infrastructure, but we can also respond to climate change effectively. With that said, it is now my singular honor and privilege to officially declare this event closed. Thank you very much. God bless you.
So quickly, can we join the ministers and the high table, join the minister, our second vice, for a group picture?
All right.
morning, everyone. Please put on your headset. This is a wireless mic. You need a headset to be able to hear the moderator and the speakers. You need a headset, please. That lady is the minister. This man. Who's this the CEO's own? Yeah, keep it yet.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me? You have to wave it? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. and we want to welcome you to the first high-level event of the NEPAD agency. Yeah. Okay. So today's event is on advancing climate adaptation and resilience in Africa. The role of the African Union Development Agency Center of Excellence. So adaptation has always been a priority for the African continent. And it's even more so now than ever before. In recent months, we are seeing increasing severe impacts from climate change. We are seeing more extreme weather patterns. We are seeing lots of droughts and floods. In many African countries, the last several months, we've seen droughts that have impacted severely on African economies, as well as our livelihoods of our communities. So it gives us great pleasure to have this event today, where we're going to reflect on the importance of planning, the importance of long-sight foresight, the importance of knowledge, and the importance of strengthening capacities at the level of our countries and communities to be able to respond to climate change. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you, and particularly our high-level speakers who are going to give us some opening remarks. Just a quick one, because my CEO is going to speak more. The Center of Excellence is based in Egypt, hosted by the government of Egypt, and this side event really is jointly organized by AUD and NEPAD and the government of Egypt. So without further ado, I would like to invite my CEO, Her Excellency, Madame Nandos Bikele Thomas, to come and sit in front because she's going to give us her remarks. I would also like to invite the Minister, Madame Yasmin Farwood. Is not here, but I would like to invite the Director to come and sit in front. She's otherwise engaged with the Prime Minister that just arrived, so she can be here. I would like to invite the Minister of Liberia, Dr. Emmanuel Yakpabulu, and also I would like to invite our dear friend and sister, Madam Carla Montesi of the EU to come up now. I would like to also invite my dear brother from the African Development Bank, Dr. Hamud Dosuma. Come on board. So thank you. Without further ado, because we're running late of time, I would like to invite my CEO, Her Excellency, Madam Nandos Bikele Thomas, to give us the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it this one or this one? Hi, can you hear me? Is it audible? Yeah, okay. Excellencies, esteemed partners, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to recognize the representative of the government of Egypt, the Director General, who is standing here on behalf of the Minister of Environment, who we're told has gone to the airport to welcome the Prime Minister. I would like to also greet, the Minister of Liberia, who is here with us. Thank you very much for all the support and the collaboration. I would like also to greet the Director for Adaptation and Resilience Communication and Civil Society Relations, the DG for Climate Action European Commission, who is here, Ms. Bardem. Would also like to recognize Professor Tony Nyong, Director for Climate Change and Green Growth, and also the lead negotiator for Africa on adaptation. Each one of you, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies that are here with us, you are all distinguished in your capacities, in your respective capacities, and I would like to say, you can't hear? And it's very difficult to understand whether people are just listening or not in this kind of a setup. So, would like to say good morning and a warm welcome to all of you to this important event on climate adaptation and resilience in Africa. I would like to acknowledge the presence of my dear sister, who is not here even in her absence, Dr. Yasmin Fard, Minister of Environment of Egypt, and all the others that are here with us, that have been partnering in making sure that this center becomes a reality. It took a long time, but today, it has become a reality. The escalating impacts, ladies and gentlemen, of climate change, whether seen in rising temperatures, extreme weather patterns, or environmental degradation, are no longer, forecasts, but they are immediate realities. We see them, under our eyes, affecting millions of lives and livelihoods in Africa. Globally, as you know, the call for climate adaptation has never been louder or more urgent. Around the world, communities are being pushed to their limits as they face more frequent and severe climate shocks. But while the need for action is universal, the burden is not evenly shared. Africa's most vulnerable communities are often on the front lines of this crisis, enduring droughts, floods, and other climate-induced disruptions that threatens their livelihoods and survivals. It's against this background and backdrop that Auda NEPAD is committed to driving a continent-wide response to enhance climate resilience. Climate adaptation is not just a policy priority. It's a matter of survival for the people of Africa. Our continent, ladies and gentlemen, must not only adapt, but must also thrive in the face of these evolving challenges. This brings us to the heart of today's message, the strategic significance of the African Union Development Agency NEPAD Center of Excellence on Climate Adaptation and Resilience. The center, as you know, is an embodiment of the African Union's collective commitment to ensure that Africa is not just a passive recipient of global adaptation strategies, but an active leader in crafting solutions tailored to our unique context. The center is dedicated to advancing Africa's capacity to adapt to climate change by focusing on three critical areas: building expertise, generating knowledge, and fostering innovation. Its mission is clear: to transform Africa's climate adaptation landscape, enabling our nations to respond more effectively to climate risks. From a continental perspective, the Center will support national and regional efforts in addressing climate change through collaboration and shared learning. The Center will act as a hub where policymakers, scientists, practitioners, and innovators, and the private sector come together to co-create solutions that strengthen Africa's resilience. It will facilitate the exchange of best practices, ensuring that African-led solutions are at the forefront of climate adaptation efforts. This is not merely about responding to immediate crises, but about embodying or embedding resilience into the very fabric of our development strategies. At the national level, ladies and gentlemen, at the national level, the Center of Excellence is designed to provide critical support to African governments as they navigate the complexities of integrating climate adaptation in their development plans. It will equip our countries with the technical expertise needed to design robust adaptation strategies that align with national priorities. Through training, capacity building, and technical assistance, the Center will empower our nations to develop climate-resilient agricultural systems, strengthen infrastructure, and protect vulnerable communities from the devastating effects of climate change. At its core, ladies and gentlemen, the Center represents our commitment to leveraging African expertise and fostering homegrown solutions. It's about harnessing the best of what Africa has to offer, our knowledge, our innovations, and our resolve. Through the Center, we will not only strengthen Africa's resilience, but also position our continent as a leader in the global adaptation agenda. We recognize that Africa's challenges are immense, but they are not insurmountable. With the right investments, partnerships, and strategic focus, we can turn these challenges into opportunities for sustainable development. We count on the partnerships of institutions such as the Global Center on Adaptation, with whom we have a formal collaboration, the European Commission, and I'm glad that there is a representative here with us, and we hope that there will be continued support from our member states. And I know it's not a hope, but they are really determined to make sure that the support is there, because we don't have any choice anyway. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let's seize this moment to reaffirm our commitment to a resilient and sustainable future for Africa. The Auda Nepad Center of Excellence on Climate Adaptation and Resilience, under my leadership, is committed to supporting African countries as we transform the continent's vulnerability into strength and its challenges into opportunities for growth. We would also like this Center of Excellence to be the repository of knowledge, because there are so many innovations around Africa in terms of creating their own solutions towards building a resilient nation or a resilient environment in their own sectors. And all these are fragmented and they're everywhere. And this center will be able to collect, this knowledge, to upgrade it and to disseminate it to all, scaling it up and upscaling it. And therefore, we are very, very excited about this knowledge providing a center of excellence. We'll build communities of practice, and this is what we are going to do through this center of excellence, so that there is networking among experts, there is not networking among actors, there is networking among innovators. And certainly all that would really help us to transform our continent's vulnerability into strength and its challenges into opportunities for growth and sustainability and resilience. Let's continue to work together to ensure that Africa not only adapts to a changing climate, but leads the way in shaping a more resilient and sustainable world for generations to come, by making sure that we plan for the risks. We identify them, first of all, the risks, and we plan for them, and we make sure that we build a resilient continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CEO, Your Excellency, for those welcoming and opening remarks. I think the CEO has presented the objectives of the Center of Excellence and highlighting, of course, the role that it will play in providing expertise and knowledge to African member states, fostering knowledge, core generation of knowledge with different partners and actors, being a repository of knowledge, including best practice and those practices that have not worked so well, because it's a learning opportunity, and partnerships. I think that is a really excellent place to go to invite the next group of speakers that include our member states, the minister from Liberia, a partnership, a very strong one from the European Commission, and of course a partnership from the African Development Bank. So having in mind what the CEO has just presented in terms of the objective of the center and the critical role of planning and upscaling climate adaptation actions that are already happening in the countries, I would like to invite our dear sister and friend of AUD NEPAD, Madam Carla Montesi, to speak to us a bit on how do you see, the EU-African cooperation on adaptation. I know we don't have a lot of time, and so I will just give the two questions and you can answer both as you see, please. As well as, what is the EU doing to support climate change adaptation in Africa? So, you can do you anywhere what suits you. You want to come here? Oh, the mic. Okay. That's it.
Sorry. Apparently the micro is not working, so let me take the floor from here, and I would like to start with my warm congratulations to the CEO, to ODA NEPAD and Egypt for the establishment of this Center of Excellence on Climate Adaptation and Resilience. Of course, as was mentioned just by CEO, creating capabilities and expertise is clearly an important step forward in strengthening African capacity to the adaptation. Now, I would like probably start to mention that when we talk about climate finance, EU is strongly engaged. Allow me just to remind the numbers. European Commission and its member states just in 2023 provide 28.6 billion in climate finance, both covering adaptation and mitigation. And our role for the African continent will remain really very, very important. Following also the African adaptation strategy, we are really engaged. Adaptation, mitigation, all the action on facing climate challenges is at the heart of our strategy, the joint strategy, European Union and the African strategy with the Global Gateway Africa-Europe Investment Package, where we engage to mobilize at least 115 billion by 2027. Financing investment for sustainable development that has the intention to mainstreaming from the design of the action, adaptation and the mitigation, looking to the different pillars of our investment package, from the energy to transport to digital infrastructure to education, research, health. It's an important action. I could give many of example, but allow me just to take few of them. One is we are talking about Central of Excellence. Allow me to say that we have a big joint program around 100 million to create a Center of Excellence at different levels, at the continental level, but at regional level, at the country level. And as was mentioned by the CEO, creating Center of Excellence is really very important because we need to build capacity, we need to be expertise, we need to increase knowledge, we need to ensure that at the country, regional, continental level, we succeed to integrate mainstreaming adaptation into all the policies and the policy framework. With this, it's going our action that we have launched at the COP27 here. It was a Team Europe initiative flagship on climate change adaptation and the resilience in Africa. One important pillars of this action was also to increase this capacity and the governance on adaptation, but was also to support climate and the disaster risk finance and insurance. It's very important for us because we know that whatever we can do at the level of governance and prevention, disaster will happen. Flood will be there, drought will be there. So it's also an important engagement in seeing what we can do with our partners on Global Shield against climate risk, but working also with the African risk capacity, the agency from the African Union that is working on putting in place analysis of risk and the insurance system. And we are really engaged to them in order to give the possibility to the African continent to have the tools that will allow the African continent to react when risk and the disaster will happen. But the prevention is also very important when we talk on adaptation. So one of important program that I would like to take this opportunity to underline is our collaboration, the Africa-European Union Space Partnership Program, because it's there that we want to work with our Copernicus satellite center of knowledge to increase the use of this knowledge in Africa, just to put in place the right adaptation strategy, but also preparing timely response when accident, when disaster is appearing, and also informed the decision making. So towards this important space Copernicus program, we are investing more than 100 million to increase the capacity at the continental level, using also all the space knowledge that we can have that will allow to prevent and to inform about drought disaster that could happen. I can and don't want to be very long, but also there will be important program in the agricultural sector, because we know very well how adaptation efforts are important into when we look to the agriculture, that we know it's one of the sector that is most impacted on by climate change. And there I can talk about our Desira Plus program that is more than 300 million that is being investing just to ensure that in Africa we continue to work looking to resilience and innovation in the agricultural sector to face the climate change solution. So these are just a snapshot of the European Union commitments. You asked about what we look to the future. Allow me to say that we really want to continue to remain engaged when we look to adaptation and mitigation, forward also what is the African engagement and debate. Next year we will have, of course, the European Union and the African Union Ministerial and the Summit in 2025. We will have the new Africa Energy Summit. We will have the Climate Summit. Are all summits where European Union and our African leaders are together to identify what are the priorities action that the African continent at all levels, I want to like to underline once again, at the local, at the regional, at continental level wants to lead, and we are ready to support. The key elements will be using and ensuring the mainstreaming of adaptation in all the action that we will lead together. Many, many thanks.
Thank you so much, Carla, for letting us. The EU is doing a lot, and the future is bright for that collaboration to start. And I think that it really resonates with the idea of the Center of Excellence, because a lot of this initiative, a lot of good work is happening. There are tools there, and the Center of Excellence can really help to bring the knowledge and experiences from all these different EU initiatives in the function of a repository. So African countries can know there is a one-stop where they can go and, get all this information on these different initiatives that the EU is supporting across the continent, and, benefit from the tools and the lessons from that are coming from this initiative. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, and we hope that we can continue this conversation to see how the center can really play that role of disseminating the knowledge coming from all these different initiatives. That should take me to our minister. This whole conversation, as Carla Riley said, is really looking at adaptations at all levels, community level, regional level, national and continental level. So it really gives me a great pleasure to invite our minister, Dr. Emmanuel Yapakwolo from Liberia, to share with us, what Liberia's experience on adaptation measures, as well as what are the expectations from Liberia as a country from the Center of Excellence. Your Excellency, you can come here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us to speak here, the Center of Excellence. Fellow leaders from the continents and our colleagues from the EU and everyone present here. It's nice to be here and talk about what is going on in Liberia, but how that relates to the Center of Excellence. In Liberia, we are carrying on a number of projects in terms of adaptations. We are carrying on coastal defense projects funded by the GCF, sometimes by the GEF as well. The West Point, in Buchanan, in other coastal areas. So we carry on a lot of integrated coastal defense system where we use natural barriers as well as using certain innovations. Those are going very well. But the major one that we have achieved actually is in agriculture, where we're able to intensify rice production to help farmers to depart from sweating cultivation, where you clear the area and you have to move on to clear additional forest over a period of time. So we try to move into more lowland areas to be able to produce rice twice a year. That project has been very successful, and that's going to continue rolling. On the scientific side of things, we have at the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, we have partnered with the University of Liberia. Not only that we introduce a bachelor program in environmental science, but also a master's degree program. But we set up a climate lab at the University of Liberia. And that lab is very important in terms of analyzing country data, in terms of what is happening in terms of climate change in Liberia. That project is ongoing.
At the EPA itself, we are about to build a state-of-the-art laboratory where we'll be able to analyze a lot of issues in Liberia. And this especially the one we're doing at the EPA, I mean the one from the University of Liberia, we got funding from the Canadian government through Novasphere. We are very grateful to them. But the one that we are doing at the EPA, a little over $100,000, we're raising the money at the EPA itself because we do raise money. And so we're saving some of our money because you put your money to where your mouth is. I think it's important. Having said that, I want to say a few words about the Center of Excellence. And then based on that particular thing I said in terms of put your money to where your mouth is. You heard the story say knowledge is power. Don't